So good day, guys. So this is GE6114, Math in the Modern World, Logic Statements and Quantifiers. Now, let's proceed to the next slide. So these are the three objectives of today's lesson. Okay. So at the end of this module, you are expected to first distinguish between simple and compound statements, then write compound statements in symbolic form and vice versa, and use quantifiers appropriately. Okay, so ito yung mga objectives that we have to tackle along the way. Okay, now let's go with the next slide. So ito yung mga terms that we should know what's the meaning of it so that we can understand logical statements or logic statements. So first, let's define what is a logic statement. It refers to a statement is that that is either true or false, but not both true and false sentence, which is declarative. Now, there are two types of statements, the simple and compound statement. So, yung simple statement, obviously, it is a statement that reveals a single idea, therefore a single statement. Okay? Next is compound statement. It is a statement that reveals two or more ideas that is combined by a connective. Okay? So mamaya, discuss natin yan further as we go along the way or as we discuss the topics. Okay? Now, let's proceed to the next slide. So these are the other terms that we should know. So the truth table and the truth value and the truth tables. So first is truth value. So kumbaga, every statement or simple statement has its truth value. It's either true or false. Kumbaga, there is a situation, kumbaga yung truth value is the kumbaga, the value of that statement. Totoo ba yan o hindi? Second is truth value of compound statement. It is dependent upon the truth values of its simple statement and its connective. Kumbaga, yung compound statement, guys, is two or more ideas that is combined by a connective. Parang operator, kumbaga. And then, if we execute or use that connective to combine those two simple statements, two or more simple statements, we will come up with a new value or truth value of that compound statement. Next is truth table. So ito yung table wherein nakalagay yung outputs of each statement. It's either compound or simple. So doon nakalista yung is either yung compound statement or simple statement is true or false. So that's the truth table. Okay? Kumbaga yung mga all possible truth values of simple statements nandun yung truth table. Yan yung truth table. Now, let's go with the next slide. So let's start with logical connectives and symbols. So yung logical operator or connective or logical connectives on mathematical statements is a word or combination of words that combines one or more mathematical statements to make a new mathematical statement. Okay? So these logical operators or connective are used to combine multiple simple statements. So there are 5 basic connectives. Okay? So now, ito yung 5. Okay? So yung 5 yun, ito. Yung not, yung and, yung or, if then, if and only if. Then, ang other term for that or for them, ito. Yung sa not is negation. Yung sa and is conjunction. Disjunction naman yung sa or. Then yung sa if then is conditional and biconditional. Then ito yung mga symbolic forms nila. Ito yung sa negation, ito yung sa and, ito yung sa or, ito yung sa if then, at saka ito yung sa if and only if, which is biconditional. So, kasi ang ibibigay sa inyo is a statement. ito ang magiging itsura niya if ever. So for example, let's start with the connective na not. So for example, not P. Okay? Or ito ang binigay sa inyo, yung symbolic form. Ito yung nakita nyo. So yung not P, guys, meron din siyang other forms, no? It could be like this. Oops, sorry. Pwedeng ganyan. Or pwedeng ganito. That is not P. Okay? So, ang ibig sabihin lang yan is negation. Ini-negate niya. Kasi itong P dito is a statement. Okay? It is a statement or a logical statement wherein it is subjected to connective na not. Nilagyan siya ng not. So, for example, yung P is, ang value niya is true. Now, pag i-subject natin siya sa symbolic form na ganito, like for example, ito yung nakita nyo, it means na kung ano yung value niya, ibaliktad mo lang, opposite lang niya. Okay? So, yung not P pala would be false. So, kumbaga, yung negation, guys, is ibabaliktad niya or baliktarin niya kung ano yung original value ng statement. Okay? Which is P on this case. So, yun yung purpose or result na ibibigay sa'yo if you use negation. Ini-negate niya. What if, sir, ang P is false? Tapos hanapin mo daw yung negation of P. So, baliktad lang ng false. So, magiging true siya. So, ganun lang yan. Okay? Now, let's go with the next na connective. So, for example, there are two statements na. Okay? Two statements na yung binigay. Okay? So, ang sabi dito, P and Q. Or ganito ang itsura. Ito ang ibigay sa iyo. It means na pag P and Q, guys, i-combine mo kung ano yung value ni P and Q. Okay, mamaya, we will have an example of this. Ang itsura niya would be like this. May arrowhead up. Then, ang tawag sa kanya is conjunction. Okay? So, mamaya explain natin kung ano ang result niyan. While yung sa OR naman, P or Q, or ganito ang itsura, that is disjunction. Yung if then naman, so if P then Q, or ganito, that is conditional, while yung P, if and only if Q, or yung biconditional, ito naman yung itsura. Okay, so isa-isahin natin yan. So let's have an example. What if yung P is may equivalent na statement and yung Q merong equivalent na statement? Now, what if yung P is a statement na it is raining, while yung Q naman is Daisy is playing golf? So ito, yung arrow up, if you remember, here, yung arrow up is this one, yung N, conjunction. So therefore, itong first statement na P, lagyan mo lang ng connective na N kasi nga ito yung ginamit. So, it is raining and Daisy is playing golf. Okay? Now, next is ito. 'Di ba? Ito yung OR, ito yung N. So, as you can see here, arrowhead na pa downwards. So, lagyan mo lang ng kumbaga, idugtong mo yung dalawang statements using yung OR na operator. While ito is biconditional. So, if then. So, if it is raining, kumbaga, lagyan mo lang ng if yung first statement, then, yung second statement man, lagyan mo ng then, Daisy is playing golf. So, may condition. So, kung umuulan, maglalaro si Daisy ng golf. Dito naman sa second statement, it is raining or Daisy is playing golf. So, either of the two ang nangyayari. So, it makes this statement this statement na or na true kung true ang isa sa kanila. Wala siyang pake kung false or true ang second or first. As long as may isa sa kanila na true, magiging true overall to. While this one, mangyayari lang ito if true ito lahat, this one. While this one, this is negation, right? Ito yung nilagay ko kanina, hindi ko nalagay, no? Yan. Or ganito ang itsura, that is negation. So, di ba, it is raining. So, pag sinabi natin negation, baliktarin lang natin. So, it is raining, baliktad lang ng it is raining, it is not raining. So, yan yung negation. So, ganyan yung pag-treat natin sa statement if may corresponding sentence or mathematical or sentence, no, na equivalent yung per statement na variable. Okay? So, that's it. Now, let's go with the next slide. So, ito yung mga truth tables. So, let's start with negation. As you can see here, yung negation, guys, works on one statement or, kumbaga, one statement only. Dapat, mag-work lang ang negation if and only if the statement is negated. One statement is negated. Okay? So, kumbaga dapat, kung compound statement naman, on this case kasi isa lang statement na ito. Kumbaga itong variable na to is considered a statement. Okay? Now, we're using truth tables. Kumbaga yung each statement variable, may situation wherein may value siya. So, for P, dalawa lang yung possibility. So, isang statement lang siya. Simple statement ito. If you remember, simple statement. So, dalawa lang yung possible outputs niya. Ano lang yung dalawa? So, true or false. Okay, kasi on this example, yung P lang yung ininegate natin or lalagyan natin ng not. Okay, so expresses the opposite true value. So, yung first situation wherein yung P, ang value niya is true. Pag inegate natin siya, idaan natin siya sa not, magiging false. So, baliktad lang. Okay? While the second situation is false naman yung value ni P. Pag inegate natin si P na ganito ang value niya, baliktarin lang yung false, magiging true. Kuha? Ganun lang. Okay. So what if, sir, pwede bang ganito, sir? Yes, pwede. Kunin nyo muna to. So mamaya, discuss natin to kung anong ibig sabihin nito. So, kumbaga, it is combined na compound statement. So, itong statement 1 at statement 2. Okay? So, mamaya, discuss natin yan further. Now, let's go with conjunction. So, conjunction or yung arrowhead up or tinatawag din natin N, yan, is true only when both statements are true. Okay? So, ito yung mali yan, no? So, dapat Q yan. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, guys, itong statement 1 at statement 2, okay? Ang statement 1 at statement 2, ginamitan ng connective na N. So, dalawang statement, kinumbine using N. So, now, ito yung values ni P. Okay? So, true, false, false. When sa Q naman is true, false, false. Mamaya, discuss natin bakit ganito ang pattern na. Ganito ang pattern for two variables. Mamaya, discuss natin bakit nangyari yan. Now, let's concentrate kung ano yung output, kumbaga. So, this is Q, Okay. Now, sabi dito, it is true only when both statements are true. So, kung magiging true lang ang output ng combination ng dalawang statement using conjunction, magiging true ang output niya if and only if true ang first at saka second statement. Okay? So ito, on this case, true and true ang Q. So P and Q, so true ang output niya. So kung i-combine mo siya using N, true ang answer kasi nga both are true. Now, on this second situation, this is the first situation, second situation, third, and fourth. So, okay na to. So, sa second situation, di ba sabi dito, magiging true lang yung value niya if and only if both statements are true. So, ito, nag-false ito. So, hindi na siya nag-follow sa condition ng conjunction. So, false ang result. Same with this one kasi nag-false ito. And both, on this fourth situation, both are false. So, obviously, false yung answer. So, that is conjunction. Now, let's go with disjunction. Or, it is known as or. Sorry. This one. So, sabi dito, ang disjunction daw or ito, yung or, is false only when both statements are false. So, on this case, ito yung first, second, third, and fourth. So, dalawang statement, guys, magiging false lang daw yung result if both of the statement is false. So, ito lang yung situation wherein both statement is false. So, ito lang yung situation wherein false din ang result. So, P or Q. So, ang other term or ang other condition kumbaga nito, if we think it in another perspective, yung or, guys, magiging true siya, magiging true siya if isa sa mga statement is true. So, let's tingnan natin yung second na statement or second na situation. Yung P is true, yung Q is false. Pero, yung isa sa kanila is true, ang result nila is true. Dapat at least one of them is true para maging true ang output. Dito sa conjunction, dapat both of them are true. Dito, hindi strict. At least one lang yung true para maging true yung answer. And that is disjunction. Okay, let's proceed with the next one. Now, let's go with conditional na tinatawag din nating if then. So, isa-isayin natin, no? Yung definition niya. Oops, sorry. So, sabi dito, if then. Magiging false daw yung result if ang gagamitin mo is conditional if yung antecedent or yung first statement, ito, on this case, kung sino yung nauna na na-declare, guys. So, for example, ito ang given sa exam. Ito lang. So, kung sino yung nasa left, yun yung first statement. So, magiging false daw yung result if yung first statement is true. So, dapat true to. At saka yung second statement is false. Para yung result nila is false. So, dapat true, false siya. Kung ano yung nasa left, dapat true siya. Yung nasa right, dapat false. Para false ang answer. Now, on this first situation, true lahat. Hindi niya finalo yung true, false. Therefore, kung hindi siya nag-follow, otherwise yung answer. Okay? Hindi false, yung true. Okay? Ito, nag-follow siya, hindi. Nag-follow. Kasi nga, true ang first statement, false ang second statement. So, false ang result. Now, this one, hindi siya nag-follow. So, true ang answer. Ang result. Ito, lalo na ito, hindi siya nag-follow. So, true ang result. And that is conditional. Napakadali, no? That is conditional na connective. That's the result. Okay, let's go with biconditional. So, it is true only when the component statement has or have the same truth value. Dapat parehas ang truth value. Wala siyang pake kung pareho sila true or pareho sila false. So, yung biconditional, guys, magiging true ang result niya if and only if yung statements, yung dalawang statements, yung component statements, the same ang truth value. So, pwedeng true, pwedeng false. Okay? So, this one, pareho silang true. So, ang output nila is true. Dito, hindi sila magkapareho ng result or ng truth value. So, false siya. Ito, hindi sila magkaparehas ng truth value, so false. Ito, magkapareho sila ng truth value, pareho silang false. Kaya, yung output nila is true. So, no matter what happened, basta parehas ang truth value nilang dalawa, automatic true. Okay? So, yan yung by conditional. Okay? So, let's resume. Okay. Let's go with this one. Sige. So, before we proceed, no, bakit nagkaganito yung result niya? Okay. Now, the formula for constructing a truth table is 2 to the n. Yun yung sabi niya. Okay? Wait lang. Ayan. So, 2 to the n. Ito. So, yung n dyan, guys, is the number of variables. Okay? Number of variables or number of statements. Now, ilan lang ba ang statements ang nandito? Si A at si B. So, kung bibilang ka ng number of statement, guys, dapat unique yung pagbilang mo. So, kung nag-repeat na yung A, there's no need for you to count it again. So, once lang siya i-count. So, on this one, ang number of variables natin is 2. So, ang n natin is 2. So, 2 to the power of 2 is 4. Kaya, 4 situation or 4 pairs ang nilista pag 2 variables. Okay? So, kaya 2 to the 4. Sir, bakit ganyan ang pattern? True, true, false, false, then true, false, true, false. So, ganito yan. Diba? If you remember, 2 to the n, so 2 to the power of 2, that is 4. So, yung result mo, guys, yung first result mo, i-divide mo yan sa 2. Then, that is 2. So, ibig sabihin yan, yung sa first statement mo, yung first na dineclare is, dapat, yung first pattern mo, unahin mo yung true. So, dalawang true, then dalawang false. So, gawin mo yung pattern na yan until makarating ka sa pang-apat na grupo. So, ito yung first na grupo, ito yung second, ito yung third, ito yung fourth. So, yun, na-distribute mo yung dalawang true, dalawang false. Now, kung ano yung last result, so 2, i-divide mo sa 2, so that is 1. So, yung result na yan, so tapos ka na sa A, di ba? So, hanapin mo naman yung pattern for B. So, 1 ang answer. So, meaning, isang true, isang false, unahin mo talaga yung true. Okay, then, ang ibig sabihin nito, 1 lang eh. So, isang true, isang false, alternate, hanggang makarating ka sa pang-apat na grupo. Kasi nga, 2 to the 4. So, 4 na grupo. Okay, so yun, nakuha mo na. So, you can solve this compound statements or these statements using connectives. Kuha. So, ganun lang yung pattern. What if tatlong variables, sir? So, mamaya, discuss natin yan. What if ABC or PQR, tatlong variables? Paano i-construct yung truth table? So, mamaya, turuan ko kayo paano i-construct. Okay? Now, let's start with A and B. Ito, di ba N to? Okay. If iyan yung N, ano nga yung sa N? Dapat, magiging true lang siya if both statements are true. Okay. Now, so dito ang kinumpare or ang kinumbine si A at saka si B. So, tingnan mo to, isa-isa. Dapat, kung gagamit ka ng N, dapat both of the statement is true para true ang output. So, ito, true, true. So, true ang answer. Ito, true, false. So, hindi siya true lahat. So, false ang answer. So, false, true. false. False, false is false. So, magiging true lang siya if both statement is true. So, sa first instance lang siya nagkatotoo. Okay, so okay na to. Nakuha mo na. Now, let's go with or. 'Di ba sabi ko, pag or is, magiging false lang siya if both of the statement is false. Or, magiging true siya if isa sa mga statements or both statements are true. Okay, so on this one, so sa or, this is a N. So true, true. So true. True, false. True pa rin kasi nga isa sa kanila is true. Ito. False, true. So ang isa sa kanila is true. So therefore, true pa rin ang answer. Ito, both of them are false. So this is the time na magpo-false yung answer. Okay? So ito yung N. Ito yung or. Now let's go with if then. Diba? Or yung biconditional. Ito is conjunction, disjunction, ito conditional, which is if then. So we're done with this table, column. Let's go with this column. So A, conditional B, or if A, then B. Now, pag sinabing ganyan, if then, balik tayo, magiging false lang siya if yung first statement daw, ito, is true, then ang second statement is false. Magiging false ang result if true ang first statement and false ang second statement. Now, ang first statement on this one, so mag-start tayo dito. So, true, true. So, hindi siya nag-follow sa true, false. So, true ang result. Ito, nag-follow siya. So, true, false. So, false ang answer. Then, false, true. Hindi siya nag-follow. So, true ito. Ito, false, false. Kaya, true ang answer. Okay? Yan yung sa if then. Okay. Now, let's have an example if 3 variables siya. Okay, let's have this Excel instead. Okay? Can you see my Excel file? Okay. What if tatlong variables, guys? Okay, A, B, C. So ibig sabihin tatlong statements. So paano nga kunin kung ilan ang gagawin mong situations or gagawin mong grupo? Yung 2 to the N. Tama? Kuha? 2 to the N. Okay? So, yan yung 2 to the N. Right? Yan yung gagamitin mo. Yung N dyan is the number of variables. Now, lakihan natin yung yan. Lakihan natin yung variable. Now, 2 to the N. Okay, so paano yun? So, ilang variables yan, guys? Ilang variables? Ilang variables yan? Hmm? Three. Okay, so lagay natin dito 3. So, ang ibig sabihin yan, guys, 2 to the power of N. So, 2 to the power of 3. Okay? So, ito, yung 2 to the power of N, guys, is, before tayo mag-construct ng truth table, we use 2 to the power of N para malaman natin kung ilang groups ba ang gagawin natin. So, on this case, 2 to the power of 3, that's 2 times 2 times 2, that is 8. Okay? Now, paano ba gawin yung truth table, yung pattern? Now, ano yung sabi ko kanina? Yung 8, i-divide mo sa 2. Okay? Para malaman mo kung ano yung ilalagay mo sa first statement, which is A. So, 8 divided by 2, okay, so ito yung sa A, ito yung sa B, ito yung sa C. Yan. Okay. So, 8 divided by 2, guys. So, always divide 2. Yung first result natin na 2 to the n, para malaman natin kung ilang grupo. So, 8 divide 2 is what? 4. Tama? So, meaning, 4 na true and 4 na false. So, di ba may 8 tayong groups? So, we will follow that pattern until makarating tayo sa 8 group. So, 4 daw na true. So, true, 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 true. Then, after that, 4 na false. False, 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 false. So, yan yung pattern. So, let's see kung 8 grupo na ba ito. Yes, 8 grupo na. So, that's how you go do the pattern. Now, yung 4 naman, so that's the last result, right? So, divide mo na naman yan sa 2. So, sa B, 2. So, meaning yan, tag-2 true, tag-2 false, then alternate hanggang makarating ka sa pang-8 grupo. So, that is true, true, 2 true, then false na naman, alternate, then true, then false, then false. Kuha? Now, let's go with C. So, ang last number is 2. So, 2 divide 2 is 1. So, meaning, isang true, then alternate. So, isang true, isang false. So, pwedeng ganyan, drag mo na lang pababa. Matalino yan si Excel. So, makukuha niya yung pattern. Kuha niyo. So, yan yung table. So, pwede mo nang kunin yung formula na give, anything na binigay sa exam. So, sa exam kasi guys, balik tayo sa PowerPoint. Ang given lang sa exam is yung dalawang statement or tatlong statement. Ito lang ang given. Ito lang ang given. So, ikaw na bahalang gumawa ng table. Kuha. Okay. So, ganun lang yun. Okay, what if 4 na variable, guys? What if A, B, C, D? Sige nga, kayo daw mag-construct. A, B, C, and D. So, ano yung unang gawin? Sige nga. Sige. What if 4 na variable? Ilang situations ba or ilang groups ang gawin? Ilan ang gawin? So, kopyahin natin to. Ilang grupo ang gagawin? Anyone from the class? 16. So, yung n natin is ilang variable? 4. Okay, so 16. Now, para makuha natin yung pattern na naman, kung ilan ang ilalagay natin sa first statement, ano yung gawin? Ano yung gawin? Ano yung gawin natin para alam natin kung ilang true at false ang ilagay natin sa first statement? Sige nga. Sige. Yung i-divide sa 2 yung 16. Sige. Ano so ilan ba ang ilagay ko na true at false sa A? What's the result there? 8. Very good. So 8. Dito sa B, ilan? 4. Sa C, 2. Then sa D, 1. Okay. So, sa A, ilang true ang ilalagay ko na magkakasunod? Ilang true? 8. Okay. So, lagay ka dito, 8. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, let's check. 1, 2. So, yung tinuro ko yung counting. Tingnan natin kung 8 yan. Yes, correct. So, drag na natin hanggang 16 ito para alam natin sa when tayo mag-stop na So, ito, 8 T, 8 true. So, 8 true, 8. How about yung false? Ilan? 8 din. So, false ka rin dito. So, drag mo na lang yan pababa para hindi ka na mahirapan mag-type. Yan. So, false. Sa B naman, ilang true at saka false yan. Ilang true at saka false? 4. So, copy mo na lang to 4. Diyan. Then, ito, 4 na false. Ay, sorry. So, copy mo to, 4 na false. So, yun, may pattern. Okay, para hindi ka na mahirapan mag-type, guys, highlight mo ito, di ba? Ito yung pattern, 4 na false, 4 na true, 4 na false. So, drag mo, i-highlight mo yung lahat, then drag mo pababa. Makukuha niya yung pattern. As you can see, 4 na true, 4 na false. Kuha. Sa C, ilan? Ilang C? Ilang true at false? Tag-2. So, copy mo na lang to, then type in ka dito F at saka F. So, yan yung pattern, right? 2 true, 2 false, alternate. So, pwede mong i-type, pwede din i-drag mo na lang. So, highlight mo na lang to para makuha niya yung pattern. So, 2 true, 2 false. Yan yung gagawin niya all throughout hanggang saan mo gusto. So, ika-16 na grupo. So, as you can see here, 2 true, 2 false, 2 true, nakuha niya yung pattern. Okay. So, sa D naman, ilang true, ilang false? 1. So, type in ka dito T at saka F. Then, highlight mo, then drag mo pababa. So, makukuha niya yung pattern. So, okay? So, kuha. So, ito yung sa 4 na variable. Kuha nyo. You get my point? So, kahit ano pa yung equation na ibigay ni sir, kahit gaano pa yan kataas, kahit 7 variables pa yan, basta may Excel kayo, and alam nyo yung pattern, it's easy. Kuha. Okay. So, hindi, sir, sa paggawa po ng pattern, true po ba always? Yes, true ang una. True talaga. Always. Always. Para uniform tayo. Okay, may tanong, sir, paano po pag 4 po statement sa first at second pa rin mag-base? What do you mean, Josh? Hindi ko maintindihan. Sorry. Sige nga, unmute ka. Unmute ka, Josh. Okay, so I think that's it. No? Kuhang-kuha na natin. Kahit pa 100 yan, 2 to the 100. Basta may Excel lang tayo. Okay, let's go back. So you get my point. Okay, so ito, napakadali lang nito. So let's go with, we're done here, we're done. Ito naman yung sa biconditional. Now, ito yung if and only if, right? Okay, now, so sa if and only if, magiging true lang siya if both of them have the same truth value. So it's either true, true, or false, false. Okay? So ito, let's say this first situation, so pareho sila ng truth value, so true ang answer. So ito, hindi sila magkapareho, so false. Ito, hindi sila magkapareho, kaya false. Ito, magkapareho silang false, kaya true ang answer. So that is biconditional. Ito naman, that is negation. So kung ano yung value ni A, So kung ano ang value ni A, so focus lang tayo dito, baliktarin nyo lang. So ang first is true, so naging false. Yung second naman is true, naging false. Yung false, naging true. Yung false, naging true. Okay? And that's the final truth table of this example. Now, let's go with the next slide. So yan, in-explain lang no kung ano yung paulit-ulit. In-explain lang kung ano yung and, yung or, yung not, yung results nila. So, tapos na tayo dyan. So, ito. So, kung baga guys, sa exam, construct the truth table for the formula. Ito lang given. So, ikaw na ang bahalang kukuha ng or gagawa ng truth table. So, ito lang yung given. Oh. Yan lang. Kuha niyo. Yan yung given lang. So, ito not P or negation of P, N, i-N siya or i-conjunction siya with the conditional of P and Q or yung if-then ng P at saka Q. So, paano yan isolve? Unahin nyo muna tong P na ninegate, tsaka itong pagkatapos nun, pagkatapos na ito, yung yung conditional ng P and Q. So, ito yung ginawa niya. So, kinuha niya yung negation ng P. So, false, false, true, true. While yung conditional ng P at saka Q, di ba? Dapat true ang first statement and false ang second statement para yung result, false. Kuha? So, ang only time na mag-false yung result ng P at saka Q is this one. Kasi nga, ito lang yung time na nag-true, false yung result. Then, pag nakuha mo na yung results ng negation of P at saka yung conditional ng PQ, ito na yung i-compare nyo, kunin nyo yung N ng mga results. So, pag N, di ba, dapat both of the statements, so yung negation of P at saka yung yung conditional ng P and Q pala, sorry, is dapat both true. So, ito, hindi ito both true. So, false ang answer. Ito, false pareho. So, false. So, ito, true at saka true lahat. So, therefore, yung answer is true. Kasi nga, N ito eh. So, dapat both of them are true para true yung result. And that's the final truth table of this formula na given. Okay. Next slide. So, there are, let's have these tautologies and contradictions. So, sa tautology, guys, ang i-remember nyo lang, na yung final result ng equation na given or formula, this one, the statement, logical statement na ito, dapat yung final output niya is true lahat para masabi mong tautology. Kuha? Pag contradiction naman, false lahat. So dapat dito, ang final output niya is false lahat para masabi natin contradiction. Kuha? So ganun lang yon. Sige, let's have this. So, show that or prove that this logical statement is a tautology. Pag sinabi natin tautology, dapat yung final output is all true. Now, ang ginawa niya, guys, inuna niya tong biconditional ng PQ, then biconditional ng QP, then kinuha niya yung OR ng results ng dalawa. Kuha? Okay. So, biconditional of PQ, di ba? Not biconditional, conditional, sorry. The conditional of P and Q is dapat, di ba? True ang first statement and false ang second statement para false ang result. So, the only time na nag-true false yung PQ is this one. So, ito lang yung false. Now, ito yung interesting, baliktad. Okay? Yung Q naman yung first statement. So, dapat true si Q, then false si P. So, yung perspective nyo or dapat titingnan nyo in a way yung paglista nyo dito sa PQ, baliktad. Pa-left kayo. Okay? Okay? So, on this case lang ha, dito lang na case. So, dapat true si Q and false si P para maging false yung answer. Para false yung answer. Now, sa first is true, true yung Q and P. So, true ang answer. Then, false true. So, hindi siya nag-follow. Dapat true si Q, then false si P. So, true pa rin to. Then ito, true, false. So, true si Q, false si P. So, nag-follow siya sa pattern. So, kaya false ang answer. Kuha. Then ito, false, false. So, true. So, hindi siya nag-follow sa TF. So, yun lang yun. Now, nakuha mo na yung result ni conditional PQ at conditional ni QP. Now, kunin mo yung OR. Di ba pag OR, magiging true siya if isa sa mga statement na dito is true ang isa or true ang dalawa. At least one is true. At least one of the statement is true. So, on this case, itong first is true kasi true, both true. Then, yung QP naman on the second statement is true. So, true pa rin. So, dito yung P, conditional Q naman yung true. So, true pa rin. Then, ito, both true. So, therefore, lagay ka dito, therefore, the statement, therefore, sulat natin. Therefore, sa exam, ito ang ilagay. Therefore, the statement, kopyahin nyo. P, Q, or Q, P, so i-ignore mo, is a tautology. So that's the final answer. Kasi nga, nag-follow siya. True ang overall results niya. All true. Pag false yan lahat, contradiction. Okay, so that's the final output. Now, let's have this one. So, universal quantifiers. So, we're done with logical statement. Let's go with quantifiers. So, yung quantifiers, guys, is just, ito yung mga words that is used to describe lahat. Kasi universal ng lahat ng elements of a set is i-describe niya. So, it's either none, no, all, every. So, marami, no? For all, for each, for every, for given, any. So, yun yung mga words wherein you can say that para sa lahat yun or universal quantifier yun. So, ito, kumbaga, yung universal quantifier, guys, instead of words ang gagamitin mo, you will use this symbol, yung baliktad na A. So, ang ibig sabihin nitong statement na ito, itong statement na ito, or itong symbol na ito, is for all. It is a universal quantifier. So ito, pag sinabing ito lang na statement, for all x, p of x. Ganun lang. Okay? So pag sinabi natin for all, lahat ng x sa p of x. Ganun. Kasi yung p of x dyan is function or set yan. So that is a universal quantifier. While, let's have this example. So for any real number x, we always have x squared greater than or equal to 0. So, it's not greater than 0. So, ang limiter natin is 0. So, dito, for all x, so lahat, for any x, element of a real number, ito. Closed agad, we always have x squared greater than or equal to 0. So, ito yung, pwede yan, acceptable yan na answer. So, kumbaga, we are translating the sentence into mathematical symbols para shortcut na. Or, naka-math sentence siya. Now, pwede din ganito. So, for all x, wherein yung x is an element of the real number, we always have or such that, it implies that x squared is greater than or equal to 0. Okay? Kuha. So, pwedeng ito or ito yung answer. Now, let's go with existential quantifiers. So, uses sums that there exist. So, kumpara, this is used if the words na, may makita kang words na there exists for some, there is some of x such that. So, ang gagamitin mo is yung baliktad na e. So, ang ibig sabihin niyan, there exists. So, ito, if we translate that, there exists such that p of x, or there exists x, comma, p of x. Pwedeng wala ng such that. So, yung baliktad na e is the existential quantifier. Now, there exists a real number x. So, pwedeng ganito. There exists x. There exists x. No? There exists a real number daw. So, element of a real number such that x is greater than 5. So, pwede din ganito. So, there exists x where x is an element of a real number and x is greater than 5. So, we use n instead of this to specify that x is a real number. Okay? So, as you can see, hindi kasi natin in-include dito sa previous slide, included si 0 kasi pwedeng equal or greater than 0. Ito, greater than 5, kaya n ang gamit natin. Okay? So, hindi included si 5, kaya n. Okay? So, dapat mag-follow ka talaga sa instruction nito. Ito, mas considerate siya. Sinali niya si 0. Okay? This is the summary and you can read this on your own, and that ends our week 12. And thank you for joining the virtual class, and God bless us all. Okay, I'll stop the recording.